Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Wow, this speaker system is very loud. Thank you for joining us today for today's announcement. I want to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered today on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee, and the ancestral lands of the Huron-Wendat. I wish to recognize the long history of the First Nations and Métis people in Ontario and show respect for them today. My name is Ruby Sahota. I'm the Secretary of State for Combating Crime and the Member of Parliament for Brampton, North Caledon. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. Today's announcement is a very exciting one. Being a representative of this area leading into the area of Caledon, this announcement is going to be one that continues to grow our economy, this being one of the biggest logistics hubs in the region, and I would say in the country, actually. This announcement is going to benefit Bramptonians and Caledonians alike very greatly. So it's my great pleasure to welcome the Minister of Transport and the Leader of the Government in the House of Commons, the Honourable Stephen MacKinnon, to deliver some good news for us today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, colleague Ruby, and it's so great to be here back in Brampton with my colleagues from Brampton to make this incredible announcement. We know how Brampton is at the center of our transportation and logistics mix in this country, a system that we want to make better, an infrastructure that we want to make better and more fluid for all Canadians, and in the interests of growing our economy and creating opportunities and jobs for young people. So thank you for that introduction. And I'm also pleased, of course, to be sharing this announcement with my good friend and cabinet colleague, Maninder Sidhu, the Minister of International Trade, who for once is back in Canada, not selling Canada and Canadian exports abroad. So it's great to be here. I also want to thank CN for being our host today. Canada's railways have been important players at the heart of our national economy for many generations, leaders for our supply chains, and at the forefront of innovation and stability. Canada is ready to step up as a leader in the global economy, and today we are announcing a significant step forward to bolster the infrastructure we need to be that leader. Canada's prosperity depends on infrastructure that ensures people and goods can move efficiently and securely. To bolster our supply chains and economic opportunities, the Government of Canada is investing in trade and transportation to build a stronger, more robust economy for all Canadians. That is why Budget 2025 includes new supports for trade and transportation infrastructure projects. So I'm pleased to announce today the launch of two of these initiatives under Transport Canada's oversight, the Trade Diversification Corridors Fund and the Arctic Infrastructure Fund. The $5 billion Trade Diversification Corridors Fund will invest in infrastructure projects to move Canadian products to global markets, strengthen trade corridors, and increase Canada's trade capacity. This includes key trade-related transportation infrastructure, including ports, railways, airports, highways, and other projects enabling trade and logistics. Meanwhile, the $1 billion Arctic Infrastructure Fund will support transportation projects that reinforce Canada's sovereignty, enable regional economic development, and connect northern and Indigenous communities. It improves efficiency across the transportation network. And investments from the Trade Diversification Corridors Fund and the Arctic Infrastructure Fund will increase the capacity of our trade and transportation infrastructure, strengthen Canada's sovereignty and presence in the Arctic, and improve Canada's ability to move imports and exports across this country and to and from the rest of the world. Le Canada est prêt à assumer un rôle de chef de file dans l'économie mondiale et nous annonçons aujourd'hui une avancée majeure pour renforcer les infrastructures dont nous avons besoin pour devenir ce chef de file. Nous annonçons donc aujourd'hui le lancement de deux de ces initiatives qui seront sous la surveillance de Transport Canada. le Fonds pour la diversification des corridors commerciaux et le Fonds d'infrastructure pour l'Arctique. Le Fonds pour la diversification des corridors commerciaux de 5 milliards de dollars permettra d'investir dans des projets d'infrastructure pour renforcer nos corridors commerciaux et accroître la capacité commerciale du Canada. Le Fonds d'infrastructure pour l'Arctique d'1 milliard de dollars appuiera des projets de transport qui renforcent la souveraineté du Canada, favorisent le développement économique régional et relient les communautés. We are today taking a critical step forward in building the infrastructure Canada needs to compete globally. And it's a critical step forward to drive Canada's trade diversification and for connecting Canadians and their communities to domestic and foreign opportunities. Canada is ready to lead in the global economy, and we are ready to help build the infrastructure to get us there. This is infrastructure that needs to work better, get built faster, and work more seamlessly and fluidly, and this government will continue to announce measures, like the very important one today, to make sure that our country is able and ready to compete, and that our job creators and businesses and workers who contribute to making our economy work and to supplying the world with goods and services continue to be enabled by the best transportation networks in the world. So I'm looking forward to announcing specific projects in the future, supported by my colleagues, hopefully, and these two new funds. And I want to thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Well, it's always good to know the House Leader when you're up on Parliament Hill and to be good friends with him. But when you're in the region of Peel, and especially in Brampton, it's good to have the Transport Minister here in our region, because we know that most trade goes through this area and this intermodal, to be exact. And this region is, this economy and logistics is so important to all of us up here today. So I want to introduce some of the members that we have here today. We have Amandeep Sodhi, who is the Member of Parliament for Brampton Centre, Sonia Sidhu, who is the Member of Parliament for Brampton South. And we're also so fortunate to have our Minister of Trade, who is the Member of Parliament for Brampton East, because those are the two portfolios, I would say, that are most significant to our area. So it gives me great pleasure to be up here today with all of them. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Minister Sidhu and invite you up to say a few words. Thank you.
Can I get this to you, Ruby? It's okay. Well, thank you, Secretary of State Sahota, and of course, Stephen, my good friend, for taking the time to be here. I want to thank CN Rail for hosting us here in my beautiful riding of Brampton East. I'm in my happy place. You see containers behind me. I spent 13 years around containers prior to politics, and so seeing trucks, seeing containers, this is what makes our economy move. The site here supports thousands of good-paying jobs in various sectors, and so I'm just glad to be back here in Brampton for this very important announcement, because this isn't just another funding announcement. This is one of the most important economic decisions Canada has made in a generation. Today we are launching $6 billion to build the trade corridors that will shape Canada's future and unlock an entirely new era of Canadian prosperity, security, and global competitiveness. And I don't say that lightly, because this is the moment when Canada is writing a new chapter. A chapter where we stop playing catch-up and start building the infrastructure and trade capacity that a modern trading nation needs. A chapter where we set an ambitious marker to double Canada's non-U.S. exports in the next decade, $300 billion in new Canadian exports. That means $300 billion in new orders for our resources, technologies, and services, and thousands of good jobs for Canadian workers in every province and territory. This is a big vision, and it meets a big moment. As Prime Minister Carney has said, the world isn't going through a transition, it's going through a rupture. Supply chains are shifting, alliances are evolving, and economic resilience is becoming the new competitive advantage. For businesses, especially exporters, this is a lot to absorb. I know this personally. Before politics, I worked 13 years in the private sector, helping facilitate trade for international trade for hundreds of businesses across this country. And I've heard the same thing everywhere I go, from chambers of commerce in Canada to partners in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Canada needs to build capacity. Canada needs to move faster. Canada needs to break the mold. And that is exactly what today's announcement does. With the Trade Diversification Corridors Fund and the Arctic Infrastructure Fund, Canada is making generational investments in the arteries of our trading nation. New infrastructure in the Great Lakes-St. Lawrence corridor, upgrades at the ports across northeastern Quebec, strategic road, airport, and seaport projects across the Arctic, modernized rail lines through Alberta and the prairies, expanded port and rail capacity on the West Coast. In every region, this investment strengthens the routes that move Canadian goods to global markets. And what does this mean for workers? It means more Ontario nuclear technology and steel products reaching world markets, more Manitoba pork and wheat on global shelves, more Saskatchewan potash and canola feeding and powering the world, more Alberta beef and natural gas, more BC lumber and copper, more Quebec aerospace and aluminum, more Atlantic seafood, and more resources from Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. This is Canada at its best, reliable, ambitious, outward-looking, and ready to grow. And let me underline one thing. You cannot double exports if you cannot move goods. This investment is how we build the capacity to deliver what the world is asking for, from critical minerals and clean technologies to AI, agri-food, and advanced manufacturing. It strengthens our competitiveness, it strengthens our supply chains, and it strengthens our reputation as a trading partner that keeps its word and delivers on time. Now, infrastructure is one piece of a much bigger strategy. We're also taking decisive steps to open new markets and deepen Canada's global trade networks. Just yesterday, Prime Minister Carney and Sheikh Mohammed signed the new Canada-UAE investment agreement to unlock billions of dollars in investment opportunities, a deal our government has pushed since day one. We signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Indonesia. We've concluded negotiations on a new free trade agreement with Ecuador. We're exploring next steps with Mercosur in South America. We've launched free trade negotiations with the Philippines and Thailand, and we're making progress on a free trade agreement with ASEAN countries. And we're taking Canadian companies abroad through Team Canada trade missions that open doors, build partnerships, and showcase the world-class expertise Canada brings to the table. All of this, every agreement, every mission, every infrastructure project is trade diversification in action. It's how we create opportunity, it's how we grow our economy, and it's how we secure Canada's prosperity for the next generation. We are transforming how and with whom Canada trades, and we are doing it with purpose, ambition, and clarity. So today, as we launch these investments, we're not just cutting ribbons, we're building the foundations of stronger, more secure, more resilient Canada, a Canada that leads, a Canada that competes, a Canada that wins. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Wow. It's a good thing those speakers were at the volume they were at. The government of Canada knows what they're doing. So you heard it here first. $6 billion to move goods faster, whether it's domestically or internationally. But we couldn't do it without our partners at CN. And so now I'd like to invite Girish Nair of the Canadian National Railway. Mr. Nair, I'll welcome you to the podium.
So thank you, Minister MacKinnon and Sidhu, Secretary Sahota, and all elected officials with us here today. We are pleased to have you join us at CN's Brampton Intermodal Terminal. I want to truly thank the ministers and the Government of Canada for your leadership in strengthening Canada's economy through strategic infrastructure investments. Today's announcement highlights the importance of public-private partnerships. When governments and industries collaborate, we create the conditions for growth, resilience, and competitiveness. CN operates 19,500 miles of network that spans Canada and the U.S., connecting 3 coasts and serving as a critical link for North American trade. Our intermodal services and the containers, as you see behind, moves goods efficiently from ports to inland markets, supporting businesses large and small. Every year, CN moves over 250 billion goods of trade, everything from consumer products to essential commodities. These movements fuel Canada's economy, support jobs, and keep supply chains strong. Investments in infrastructure amplify this impact by improving capacity, reliability, and sustainability. Public-private partnerships enable us to accelerate projects that matter, expanding intermodal terminals, enhancing port connectivity, deploying technology that improves fluidity and reduces emissions. These initiatives don't just move freight, they move economy forward. We're excited to continue working with the Government of Canada and our partners to build infrastructure that will keep Canada competitive for decades to come. Together, we can deliver a stronger, greener, and more connected future. Thank you very much.
Well, that's a great announcement. Earlier today, Mr. Nair was mentioning to me that 2,600 trucks move through this port every single day. That's incredible. And behind every truck or inside every truck is goods that we all need, goods that are moving internationally, but importantly, the truck drivers that move those goods, that work in that live in all of our communities and have work due to CN's port. So thank you, Mr. Nair, for your continued efforts and for keeping our community employed. Now it's time to begin the question and answer session of today's announcement. So if there are any questions that any media has.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, very loud.
Very loud.
Yes.
Hi, it's Mark Rendell with Globe and Mail. I'm wondering what your comment is on Nutrien's decision to invest its export port in Washington rather than in British Columbia, and what kind of conversations did the federal government have with the company in the lead up to that decision to try to incentivize the investment to stay in Canada?
Thank you for that question. I'm very disappointed at Nutrien's decision. Nutrien is a Canadian company that mines a uniquely Canadian commodity, potash. We believe that the infrastructure and other elements required for them to successfully move product from Saskatchewan and other places, New Brunswick, to international markets. All of those conditions were present in Canada. I've spoken to the CEO of Nutrien, expressed my disappointment, and I've asked that we be able to meet their project team one more time to before arrangements become final, so that we can hopefully convince them to change their mind. They have had extensive engagement with the Government of Canada, but I will say that we were taken by surprise by this decision, and as a result, I've spoken to, as I mentioned, the CEO, also spoken to the Premier of Saskatchewan to also discuss a potential response to this. So stay tuned.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up on that? What is the government putting on the table now to try to incent that decision? As you say, you're going to take one more crack at it. What new is going to be offered?
Well, you just heard what we're putting on the table to incent that decision. We have very good port facilities at Prince Rupert and Vancouver, very good port facilities in St. John, New Brunswick to move potash. We are determined to continue to make that infrastructure better. As you well know, there have been or will be significant investments in our port infrastructure on the West Coast and potentially the East Coast as well. So I just want to reiterate that we're playing for Team Canada now. Saskatchewan potash should be moved out of a Canadian port. I'm disappointed at this decision, and we're hoping to persuade the company to change its mind.
Any other questions? All right, see, because there's none, this concludes today's program, and thank you to everyone for joining us today, the media, everyone else, and once again to CN, thank you for your commitment to Brampton, and thank you for always being a great partner to the federal government. Thank you to Minister MacKinnon, Minister Sidhu, MP Sidhu, and MP Sodhi for being here today. Thank you, everyone.